The universe is always full of mysteries and surprises, and one of them happened on Earth. Humanity was faced with a strange and frightening phenomenon. Children stopped being born. At first, some people did not attach any importance to this, thinking that it was just a temporary phenomenon or individual cases. But over time, it became obvious that human society began to face a catastrophic decline in the birth. Scientists have investigated this problem with all their might, but have not been able to find an explanation. As time passed, the number of newborns decreased. Humanity was on the verge of extinction. The states took all possible measures to save the future of the human race, but all in vain. Scientific studies have shown that the reason for such a decrease in the birth rate lies in a strange phenomenon. Irreversible changes occurred in the human body. The reproductive system stopped functioning, and no treatment method gave results. Each generation became less fertile, and there were fewer new lives on Earth. Humanity has plunged into despair. Some tried to find shelter on other planets by exploring space, but even there, they faced the same phenomenon: infertility. The future of the human race seemed hopeless. However, the day came when a scientist named Richard Harrison discovered an ancient mystical relic known as the Stone of Life. This stone possessed unique abilities to restore and regenerate living organisms. Joining forces with other scientists, Richard has developed a special procedure that allows using the energy of the Stone of Life to restore the reproductive system of humans. It was a chance to bring back the future of the human race. However, using the Stone of Life was associated with great risks. Uncontrolled use could lead to unpredictable consequences and human destruction. Richard and his team have conducted extensive research and testing to minimize the risks. Richard and his team began to implement the procedure for using the Stone of Life from volunteers who were willing to sacrifice themselves in the hope of restoring fertility and saving the future of humanity. The first results were impressive. The reproductive system of the participants in the procedure began to function, and the first children were born again. The restoration of fertility was made possible thanks to the amazing properties of the Stone of Life. However, with each new procedure, Richard noticed that the Stone of Life was losing more and more of its energy. Apparently, the ability to regenerate has its limits, and over time the stone will be exhausted. This raised new questions and raised concerns among the scientist and his team. They understood that this was a temporary solution and that they could not rely solely on the Stone of Life. It was necessary to find a long-term solution to the problem of infertility. Richard and his team continued to research and look for alternative methods of restoring the reproductive system. They immersed themselves in the study of genetics, trying to find the key to restoring human natural fertility. After several years of intensive research, Richard and his team discovered a new approach to solving the problem. They have developed a unique technique of genetic modification that allows to restore reproductive ability in a natural way. Using modern technology and modern genetic engineering techniques, they have developed a way to modify the human genome in such a way as to restore natural fertility. This suited the idea of preserving and strengthening the human race. While the use of the Stone of Life was temporary and limited, the developed method of genetic modification has been subjected to long-term tests and checks to ensure its safety and effectiveness. And eventually, it was successfully applied on volunteers. After a while, the first natural pregnancies and births were registered. Humanity has regained hope. The future has become brighter. However, no one has forgotten about the Stone of Life. It continued to be used as an alternative treatment and regeneration method, but now its use was controlled and prudent. Over time, the described procedure became more and more advanced, and more women could experience the joy of motherhood. The birth rate gradually began to recover. This story is about humanity's struggle with the threat of extinction and how, through the power of science and despair, people managed to turn fate to their advantage. She reminds us that even in the most hopeless situations, one should never despair, and there is always a chance for salvation and